Hi there. Today we're going to learn how to divide fractions. Before we can divide fractions, we need to understand multiplicative inverses. Multiplicative inverses are just two numbers whose product equals 1. They are also known as reciprocals. For example, we have 1/4 times 4/1 equals 4/4 or 1. Basically, what you need to do is you need to just flip the fraction and then multiply it. So anything times its reciprocal is going to get you 1. That leads us to the inverse property of multiplication. The product of a number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. So here's the number. Here's the multiplicative inverse. All I did was flip the fraction from 2/3 to 3/2. If you multiply across, you end up getting 1 as your answer. Find the multiplicative inverse of each number. Here I have 7/16. In order to find the multiplicative inverse of it, I'm just going to flip it to 16/7. For our next example, this is a little bit different because this is a mixed number. So what I have to do is I'm going to turn this into an improper fraction first. How I'm going to do that? 3 times 6, which is 18, plus 1 is 19. So as an improper fraction, it's -19/3. And then I'm just going to flip it again to -3/19. To divide by a fraction, you need to multiply by its multiplicative inverse. So basically, whenever you see that you're dividing by a fraction, you just multiply by whatever the fraction is flipped, or the reciprocal, or the multiplicative inverse. They're all the same thing. So, for example, we have 4/9 divided by 3/5. Well, this division sign is going to change to multiplication, and this 3/5 we're going to flip it to the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse, whatever you want to call it, to 5/3. So it's going to be 4/9 times 5/3, and now we know how to solve this. 4 times 5 is 20, 9 times 3 is 27. Dividing by a whole number is basically the same thing. The only thing is you need to rename it as an improper fraction first, then multiply it by its reciprocal. In order to change a whole number into an improper fraction, you always want to put it over 1. So this 8 right here, this 3/7 divided by 8, is going to get put over 1. So my problem is the same thing, 3/7 divided by 8/1. And then I'm just going to multiply by the reciprocal. So it'll be 3/7 times 1/8. If I go across, 3 times 1 is 3. 7 times 8 is 56. All right, and here I have our first example, 1/9 divided by 5/12. So first thing I want to do is flip this fraction to 12/5. That's the reciprocal, right? And then I'm going to multiply this number by the reciprocal. So my new problem is going to look like 1/9 times 12/5. Okay? From there, I can see that I can cross cancel this 9 and the 12 by the GCF 3. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, 3 goes into 12 4 times. Then you just multiply across. 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 5 is 15. So my answer ends up being 4/15. Let's look at our next example here. 3/7 divided by 8. All right, well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 8/1. I just rewrote the same problem. I just put the 8/1. Then I'm going to flip this, so then I'm going to multiply the reciprocal. Multiply whatever that flipped fraction is. It'll be 3/7 times 1/8. And then I'm just going to go across and multiply. 3 times 1 is 3. 7 times 8 is 56. Here are some more examples. Here I'm going to turn the mixed numbers into improper fractions. And then I'm going to multiply the reciprocal. So, so far we haven't seen any examples with mixed numbers, so that's where this slide comes in. First thing we're going to do, turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 you get 14, so negative 14 thirds. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. 28 ninths would be our improper fraction for this. Then I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So my new problem is going to be negative 14 thirds times 9 over 28. All I did was flip this fraction, and I also changed the operation. So now I have to solve this problem. I see right away I can cross cancel my 14 and my 28. GCF would be 14, right? 14 goes into 14 once, 14 goes into 28 twice, and then same thing here. I can cross cancel the 3 and the 9. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times. So my new problem is going to be 1 times 3, which is negative 3, and then 1 times 2, which is 2. So I get negative 3 halves, which simplifies to negative 1 and 1 half. Here's our next example. We have negative 6 and 4 fifths divided by negative 2 and 2 fifths. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this first fraction, we're going to change it into an improper fraction. Same thing with this. We're going to turn it into an improper. 5 times 6 gets you 30, plus 4 is 34 over 5, 34 fifths. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 gets you 12, so negative 12 fifths. And now we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to do negative 34 fifths times negative 5 twelfths. All I did was flip this fraction and multiplied. Okay, right away I can see that I can cross cancel again. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 5 once. And then here I just cross canceled by 2. I used 2 as my GCF. 34 divided by 2 is 17. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So then I just multiply across. 17 times 1 gets me 17. 1 times 6 gets me 6. 17 6 ends up reducing to 2 and 5 sixths. Take note here, it's a negative times a negative, so my answer is going to be positive. Alright, and here are some concluding thoughts. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. To divide a fraction by a whole number, you need to make the whole number an improper by putting it over 1, then multiply the reciprocal. To divide mixed numbers, turn them into improper fractions, then multiply by the reciprocal. Alright, that's all. I hope you learned how to divide fractions.